Hey gang, I am currently using some artificial intelligence to improve one of my workflows here, and perhaps some of you are interested in practical examples or maybe even some package design discussion, which is what this is about today. So I like to go out to some of the major GPTs and ask questions, and either one, use them to save me some time, or two, use them to learn something and sort of get a consensus kind of answer. So what I'm going to do today is I have some questions. I'm doing some package design, and I've gone out to four models: GPT, 4, Claude, Gemini, and Meta's AI. And let me give you some context as to what I'm doing. So I've got this package design here. I designed it last year. There's a bunch of different versions. I didn't actually do the packaging yet for retail. This is a retail design. One, because I was trying to save money last year. I wasn't ready to go into retail, but two, so I just never did. But now I've actually got some reps that are helping me to sell into retail, and I went to get this quoted from a U.S. manufacturer because it's pretty late in the summer. I just need a small print run of these things to support some early retailers, and the price was astronomical. And some of the reasons I'm going to explore with you here today. So what I'm doing right now is I've redesigned this weekend just a simpler package. One of the major things that the manufacturer called out, which they're just down the street here, which is nice, is that I have two acetate windows in the original design. There's one right here where the book sits, and there's one right here that wraps around to the corner, which is where the plush doll sits. And I took that out. I also realized it's a really big print. If you look at the whole thing, it's just huge. It's a really large box. So anyway, I went back and forth with my reps, and we talked about what could work, what could I get off the shelf, make it cheaper. And where we landed is actually this box here. This is a prototype that you're looking at. It's got the book in the front. I can basically buy these 9x9x4, which is a perfect fit for the book and for Stanley, along with a little box that goes in the back. And this is what the back looks like. So with this design that I've iterated on, I've essentially trimmed all the print costs down to a really small design, which is what you see here. It's got a couple of white sides. Here's the back, the top, the bottom, the one side of the box, and then I've got a little flap here based on the advice of my reps that says, look, I need to give something to the buyer when they're looking on the shelf, and the customer's looking on the shelf, and they see, what is this thing about? And so that might still vary. This is still a development progress. But I'm going to be sending this new design to the manufacturers I have here in Orlando and asking them for what they think the cost is going to be. So what I'm going to share with you now is I went to each of these GPT models and I said, hey, what are some common things that will cause these packages to get more expensive? So I had industrial design back when I was in college. I did package design, so I know all the basics, but don't really know too much about the cost these days. It's been a while. So here's what I said. I asked them all the same questions. I'm designing a cardstock package for my retail product. I'll need CMYK printing. What aspects of manufacturing add the most cost to a retail box? And I'll make choices on what to keep and what to leave out based on your information. So I'll share some highlights with you. This is really neat. First is what material, and then second is CMYK. So I've already got a thin white, retail kind of cardstock. I am using CMYK, and that's more expensive than say a couple of simple colors. Custom die cuts. That was a big problem on my last design, which I still want to make someday. But I had a lovely little curve here. Had this little circle that sits over both of them. There's another little curve, and there's a little curve up here. So I just kind of went curve crazy, trying to pull through the whole theme of the wormhole. Anyhow, so my theory is that's part of it. I didn't do embossing, didn't do metallic inks. We did that on Trobo, and just a gorgeous box I was proud of, but metallic inks add like $1 a box depending on your volume. Folding and gluing, the more complicated, the more expensive it is. I don't have any interior printing. They talk about windows. I had 2 acetate windows here. That's pricey. And multiple pieces. It's not shown here, but there's also an internal box, or not box, but sleeve that holds the book in place. So that was an expense as well. And then it says, tips to minimize. Look for a standard box size is a common one that came up. And so I'll kind of read the other ones to you. That just made some little differences. Let's see here. Sorry, larger boxes are more expensive, blah, 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 same kind of stuff. multi-pieces, which I had. So I kind of really hit all the major pieces that these GPTs shared with me. Smaller print runs make it more expensive. They sure do. And it talked a lot about post-print processing, which is the fact that the same thing that was called out by the manufacturer, which is they got to fold it and assemble it, and probably adding the clear acetate windows was going to be the most expensive item. So anyway, with all that in mind, let me hit up ChatGPT, and I can come back to the next step. Same kind of stuff on these. Full color CMYK is a problem, and fancy die cuts is a problem. Size is a problem. Coatings, I may or may not have a glossy coating. I may not need it inside the clear plastic box. And tooling, of course, is one of those things, again, that gets costly when you have the curves. Meta had the same kind of notes, materials, finish, blah, blah, blah. Also, make sure that you're not just inflating it. Make sure the box is as small as it can be, etc. So pretty common stuff. So I said, fine. That kind of confirmed that I had addressed most of the items. But as you can imagine, I'm thinking, okay, fine, I'm not putting any print here, so I've got a nice small little CMYK area now. That's great. I am worried about the flaps because there's a lot of little curves maybe. And I have this little thing on the side. This is non-standard. This little flap that goes around to hold the book in place and look, a bit more cohesive. So I decided to try a little RAG, or Retrieval Augmented Generation. And so when I did that, I gave them each a PNG. You can see here that Gemini from Google takes a PNG. The others just take whatever file types they take for now. But they probably take documents and that kind of stuff too. But I just made a PNG. And then I said here, I've attached my package design. Do you see any areas I should cut to save significant costs? And this was a kind of a neat experiment. So Gemini definitely called out lots of colors, many colors. If you look here, I have the main, 3 colors, the black, red, and sort of a teal blue color. But then I have a game deck, and the game deck has all sorts of colors in here in the original design. So now in my design, I carry through those colors because I use a lot of those, for example, in the book. Like this is the font that is in the book. And I have these little highlighted words. And so, yeah, my color palette is very large on this one. It didn't recognize that I had a white, package design. But if you notice, which means I could use the white board, what I didn't do is I exported this. I exported it as a PNG, and I didn't have a transparent background. So it probably just didn't understand that I was going to do that. And I thought this was neat. I uploaded the package design, but Gemini, it's all thin black lines. It did not recognize that I was giving it a box design, a package with die lines. These are called die lines. It's where everything is cut out. And the outlines are the cut, the punch, and then the red lines are where the folds occur. So it just didn't know that. It means it probably hadn't been trained on that necessarily, which is fine. So overall, it was like, you need to think about the colors. It didn't really hit one of the other beats, but Claude does, I think, if not ChatGPT. As you'll see in just a minute. So here it is, simplify the die cut. So curve edges comes up a lot. If you go with more of a square kind of flaps and stuff here, all the flaps are square, then it'll save you some money. So I'm not so sure I'm going to take those out. I'm going to talk with the manufacturer about it if it's really that much more expensive. I'm thinking these are pretty standard flaps these days, and this design is tried and true for making sure the flaps lock in. You'll see it on almost all the packages that you get, unless it's glued. But I've only got one glue flap, which is this one right here on the side. The rest is all fold. So that's a pretty common thing. It also says reduce the colors. Now what I'm surprised and delighted about was I got a QR code reference here. So it actually says, hey, you need to get rid of that QR code. And I thought, what's that about? But I'll come back to that in just a minute because this is not the only model that calls that out. I also thought it was neat. It thought I had a window cut out because it called out this one right here, which is that's not a window. It's a photograph of Stanley, but that was pretty slick that it figured that out. But it does say, look, the back panel's complex. You got all sorts of stuff going on here. And this was a real treat. So on my box, I've got labels, if you'll see here. It wanted to help me to be sure I'm thinking in the right direction when I'm laying stuff out. There's front, top flap, on the back. I have the outside panel, the wraparound front bottom flap. And I've even got one over here. It's like inside next to plush and the front that is behind the book. And that, just to remind you, is this little white part here. And then also the part that's the box right here behind the book is white too, because there's no real estate there. So, so Claude was actually reading the labels inside next to plush. How cool is that? Anyway, it says, look, if there is printing here, just get rid of it if you can to save costs. So it kind of recognized there might be an opportunity there. And of course, I've done that, but I was really charmed that it actually saw that label and read it and figured out a recommendation on it. Okay, so here's ChatGPT. Same kind of stuff. Simplify the shape. Minimize the printing area. I may not actually put a gloss layer because it's inside of a clear acetate window. So that might save some money. Optimize the size. Make sure it's small. And there is one of these. I must have skipped it. Hang on a minute. Was it Gemini? Let me see. One of these had something really charming that I have somehow missed in my review with you guys today. But I want to show it because it's kind of cute. Maybe it was ChatGPT. Oh, snowman. Do you want to build a snowman? No. One more. Here we are. Check this out. I completely missed this. Sorry, guys. I got to back up to Gemini. I was so delighted. I had a bit of a hallucination here. Or Gemini did. Where it says the included winter scene with snowmen and reindeer has a lot of detail. Now, I don't have any snowmen. I don't mention snowmen. But I have to assume that what it's talking about is this little busy little area of my box right here, which is called out by the other GPTs too. There is a lot going on. I got lots of colors. I'm communicating what a treasure hunt looks like in the box. And I was just delighted because it called out snowmen, which don't exist on the box. I do call out reindeer over here. So I'll give it some credit for figuring that out. Because I don't tell it what the box is about, right? It's figuring it out on its own. But I thought that was charming. And I think that maybe here's snowflakes. It's either seeing the sparkles that's over here, or it sees these as snowflakes. So anyway, that was really charming. And I think that's kind of it for the overall review. Just make things smaller and simpler. Unfortunately, Meta doesn't do RAG yet, so I couldn't give it the image, which is too bad. But overall, I feel like I've got some pretty good wins here based on what the experts have told me, so to speak. I got a much smaller print area than before. I may have to simplify these flaps based on what the manufacturer tells me. And I may have to see whether or not they can use some more of a standard shape with their dies, or they're going to have to do something special here and therefore charge me more money for it. So this might actually change as a result of the chat. Anyway, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did anything like this with any of the models, either from packaging design or something else, I'd love to hear from you. Just put a comment in the notes below. Thanks.